The awakening of Grace. The gentle hum of the city filled the night air as Grace sat by her window, staring out at the vast sea of lights below. She could see the skyline stretching beyond, the towering buildings standing as symbols of success, wealth, and ambition. The same ambitions she had once pursued. Yet, despite the visible signs of achievement, a successful career, a beautiful home, the admiration of her peers, there was an emptiness inside her that she could not explain. Grace had spent her entire life following the conventional path. She worked hard, climbed the corporate ladder, and accumulated the material comforts she had been taught would bring happiness. But now, at 35, the constant noise of the world around her only highlighted the silence within. She had everything, yet something was missing. It all began to change when she met an old man in the park a few months ago. Part 1. The Encounter. It was an ordinary day. Grace, feeling the weight of another high-pressure week, had gone for a walk in Central Park to clear her mind. She always loved the park, an oasis of green in the middle of the concrete jungle. But that day, something felt different. She found a quiet bench under a large oak tree and sat down, closing her eyes for a moment, trying to escape the persistent anxiety gnawing at her. "Peace is not something you find in the world," came a voice from beside her. Grace opened her eyes, startled. Sitting next to her was an elderly man, his face wrinkled but kind, his clothes simple yet clean. His eyes twinkled with a calmness Grace had never seen before. "I'm sorry," she asked, confused by his sudden comment. The old man smiled. "You've been searching for peace, haven't you? But it's not out there." He waved his hand toward the bustling city around them. "It's in here." He gently tapped his chest. Grace, taken aback, didn't know how to respond. Who was this man, and how did he seem to know exactly what she had been feeling? "Who are you?" she finally asked. "Just an old soul who's walked many paths," he replied. "But you are at the beginning of your journey." Part 2. The Journey Inward. After that encounter, Grace couldn't stop thinking about the old man's words. He had given her a small card before he left, with just a single word on it: silence. For weeks, she carried the card with her, often pulling it out during moments of stress, but never quite understanding its meaning. She felt drawn to seek answers. One day, while browsing a bookstore, she stumbled upon a book on meditation and inner peace. Something in the title resonated with her, and she bought it, feeling as if she had been led to it. As Grace began reading the book, she learned about meditation and the practice of silence, stillness of the mind. She started with just 5 minutes a day, closing her eyes and focusing on her breath, trying to quiet the constant chatter in her head. It was harder than she expected. Her mind rebelled, filling the silence with thoughts, worries, and to-do lists. But over time, something began to shift. In those brief moments of stillness, Grace found a small sense of relief. She wasn't sure what it was yet, but it felt like she was touching the edge of something vast, something deep within herself. Part 3. The Lessons of the Old Man. Weeks later, Grace ran into the old man again, this time in a different part of the city. He greeted her with the same knowing smile. "You've begun to listen," he said before she could even speak. Grace nodded. "I've started meditating. It's hard." The old man laughed softly. "It is, at first. The mind is like a restless child. But with patience, you'll learn to guide it." Over the next few months, the old man became Grace's spiritual mentor. He never revealed much about himself, but his teachings were simple and profound. He spoke about the importance of connecting with one's inner self, of understanding that the true nature of peace and happiness didn't come from external achievements or possessions but from within. One day, as they sat together by the river, the old man asked Grace a question that would change her forever. "What do you believe you are?" he asked, looking out at the flowing water. Grace hesitated. She had always thought of herself in terms of her roles: an executive, a daughter, a friend. But none of those felt like the true answer to his question. "I don't know," she finally said. The old man nodded. "Exactly. You are not your roles, your thoughts, or your emotions. You are something far greater. You are the awareness behind it all." Part 4. The Awakening. As the seasons changed, Grace continued her inner journey, slowly unraveling the layers of her identity that had been built up over the years. She began to see through the illusion of the busy, noisy world around her, the constant striving for more, the fear of never being enough. In moments of deep meditation, she touched something eternal within herself, a deep stillness that transcended all of her worries and fears. One night, months into her practice, Grace experienced what some might call an awakening. As she meditated, she felt herself let go of all the thoughts that had been clouding her mind, the doubts, the anxieties, the need for control. For a brief moment, she experienced pure awareness, free from the distractions of the mind. It was as if a veil had been lifted, and she saw the world as it truly was, beautiful, interconnected, and whole. In that moment, Grace understood what the old man had been trying to teach her all along. Peace was not something to be achieved or found in the world, it was the natural state of being, always present beneath the surface of life's chaos. All she had to do was remember it. Part 5. Sharing the light. Grace's transformation didn't go unnoticed by those around her. Her friends and colleagues saw a new calmness in her, a serenity that seemed to radiate from within. She no longer chased after success with the same desperation as before. Instead, she began to live with intention, finding joy in the present moment rather than in future goals. She also felt a growing desire to share what she had learned. Inspired by her journey, Grace began teaching meditation classes at a local community center. She found fulfillment in helping others discover the same inner peace she had found, guiding them to silence their minds and connect with their true selves. One day, after one of her classes, a young woman approached her. "I've been feeling so lost," she said, her voice shaky. "How did you find peace?" Grace smiled, thinking of the old man who had first set her on this path. "It's already within you," she said gently. "You just need to remember." Conclusion. The eternal journey. Grace never saw the old man again after their last meeting by the river. But his teachings lived on within her, guiding her through the ups and downs of life. She knew now that the spiritual journey was not about reaching a final destination but about continually waking up to the present moment, again and again. In the years that followed, Grace's life changed in ways she could never have predicted. She left her corporate job, moved to a quieter place, and dedicated her life to helping others find their own path to inner peace. And through it all, she carried the lesson that had started her journey, the understanding that peace, true peace, was not something she had to seek, but something she had always been.